The U.S. military needs dolphins to fight Russia in Ukraine. I wish I were joking. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Now, humans have always used animals in wars, sometimes to fight in battles, sometimes to deliver messages, even though it took a little while to figure out which animals were best for each. Even in an age of drones and AI, animals still play an important role in the military. For example, dogs are still used for detecting explosives and hazardous chemicals. Technology still can't replace Fido's nose. And cats are great for nothing. They're useless, spiteful little creatures, which is why I like them. Although cats still found a way into the military for unofficial roles like companionship, simply because they're cute. The U.S. military also uses dolphins and sea lions because they're also cute, but better swimmers than cats. There are even reports that the U.S. military has weaponized dolphins. The U.S. Navy actually does have a marine mammal program. The U.S. military's interest in dolphins and sea lions dates back to 1959, when naval researchers wanted to improve torpedo designs by studying animals. They were interested in dolphins for their intelligence and natural sonar. But the U.S. Navy also looked into training other marine animals, sharks, rays, marine birds, even sea turtles. It's a good thing Nemo's dad didn't run into those military vet turtles. "You don't know what I've seen, man. You weren't there." I guess the turtles didn't work out, because since then the U.S. Navy has relied on two species, the bottlenose dolphin and California sea lion. Dolphins possess the most sophisticated sonar known to man. Sea lions, meanwhile, have the advantage of being able to swim in very cold water. Both mammals have excellent low-light vision and underwater directional hearing that allow them to detect and track undersea targets. They can also dive 7 times deeper than humans and zip around underwater obstacles. Their biggest disadvantage is neither understands no means no. Seriously, that's a thing. Nature is dark, man. Shelley, I think we might need an America Uncovered mental health break. Oh, look, is that 2 dolphins holding a rose? Too soon, Shelley. Anyway, with training, dolphins and sea lions can alert security personnel to mines and underwater intruders. Sea lions in particular are trained to locate and attach recovery lines to Navy equipment. And the U.S. military has been actively using them for decades. In 1970, the presence of 5 Navy dolphins discouraged underwater saboteurs from entering the water and blowing up a U.S. Army pier in Vietnam's Cam Ranh Bay. In 1987 and 1988, 5 dolphins patrolled the waters around the USS La Salle off the coast of Bahrain. The animals even helped provide security for the Republican National Convention of 1996, which took place at the Waterside San Diego Convention Center less than a month after a bombing at the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. But it wasn't until the Iraq War in 2003 that dolphins became the first marine mammals to take part in mine-clearing operations in an active combat zone. 9 dolphins helped U.S. forces disarm more than 100 anti-ship mines and underwater booby traps planted by Saddam Hussein's forces. Later, in 2013, dolphins in the middle of training found an undetonated Howl torpedo from the late 19th century off the Hotel de Coronado in California. I feel like it won't be long before we learn about the world's first dolphin spy. The name's James. But as helpful as dolphins and sea lions are, the Navy wants to replace them with underwater drones. Man, even sea creatures aren't safe from losing their jobs to automation. SpongeBob and Patrick better watch out before they're replaced at Krusty Krab by kiosks. You see, there are a lot of costs for housing dolphins and sea lions. Not only does the U.S. Navy have to feed them, but it also has to keep them in custom enclosures with specialized care by handlers and vets. In 2022, the Navy sought to end the use of marine mammals. And that wasn't the first time. Back in 2012, the U.S. Navy announced that dolphins would be replaced by robots in 2017. The military said the machines can do some of the same mine-hunting duties as the sea creatures, and they can be manufactured quickly, unlike the 7 years it takes to train a dolphin. Yeah, but can they play basketball? I thought not. By February 2016, the Navy spent more than $90 million on a program to develop the knife fish, a torpedo-shaped unmanned underwater vehicle. And yet, to this day, the knife fish still can't beat dolphins. I hope it wasn't because the Dolphins and Sea Lions played dirty to keep their jobs. This is what happens when you bring a knife fish to a gunfish fight. Congress used the 2023 Defense Authorization Act to prohibit the Navy from retiring its marine mammals until it can come up with technology that's as good or better. But the U.S. isn't alone in using dolphins. So is Russia. And they've done some pretty crazy things with them. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. The U.S. Navy has been using dolphins and sea lions to detect mines and provide security for decades. It's like if that game Minesweeper was way more adorable and people actually played it for more than 5 minutes. But we actually don't know everything that dolphins have done for the military because much of their real-world missions remain classified. Some speculate that the Navy has trained dolphins to kill. Now I get why people are afraid dolphins threaten humanity. I knew they were spies. Rumors about killer dolphins have circulated since the Vietnam War. Back in 1990, 2 former Navy trainers told the New York Times that dolphins were trained to ram enemy divers and, I kid you not, shoot .45 caliber bullets from their snouts. Wow, they can tackle their opponents and aim properly? Man, if only the Miami Dolphins could say the same. Years later, former U.S. Navy SEAL Brandon Webb described a different kill mechanism, claiming that dolphins were trained to headbutt enemies with hypodermic gas needles. The Navy denies training dolphins to kill people, probably so it doesn't hurt sea lions' feelings. How did you not make me a SEAL? Look at me. I'm more of a literal SEAL than you'll ever be. But there's one country that doesn't deny training animals to kill, and that's Russia. Its marine mammal program has its roots in the Soviet Union. It was in response to America's marine mammal program, and probably because they drowned a bunch of bears trying to train them to attack boats. I don't have proof of this, but come on. It's Russia. In 1965, the Soviets opened their first marine life program in the Black Sea, and then a second center in the Arctic Ocean. A Soviet scientist claimed that dolphins protecting bases against underwater saboteurs were capable of killing an enemy on their own with a special dolphin muzzle with a spike. Special Forces dolphins were even reportedly trained for airdrops from helicopters. Yes, I just said dolphins were airdropping from helicopters. We weren't expecting these Special Forces. There are also reports that dolphins also carried a titanium clamp that could inject high-pressure CO2 into the bodies of intruders. It has also been reported that Soviet dolphins were trained to carry out kamikaze missions. Explosives were supposedly strapped to their backs, and they were sent out to blow up enemy submarines. Given the Soviet Union's horrible human rights record, I'm totally not surprised that they'd be willing to weaponize animals. Saying they also had sharks with frickin' laser beams on their heads isn't enough of an exaggeration to let people know I'm joking. Ukraine inherited much of the Soviets' marine mammal program after the fall of the Soviet Union, but Russia took their dolphins after taking over Crimea in 2014. Unfortunately, most of the dolphins died, reportedly after starving themselves to death. It's not unprecedented for captive dolphins to refuse food or even stop breathing after being separated from humans they had formed bonds with. In 2018, Ukraine's then representative in Crimea claimed that the dolphins died patriotically, refusing to follow orders or eat food provided by the Russian invaders, and that the hunger strike led to their eventual death. So he's saying these dolphins didn't die for no reason. They served a purpose. Look, I'm trying to lighten up a story about dolphins starving to death. What do you want from me? Russia has also been using dolphins and other marine mammals in conflicts around the world. This includes Ukraine. Satellite photos show that trained Russian dolphins were placed at the entrance of Russia's Black Sea naval base in February last year, around the time of the invasion. After Ukraine blew up the Crimean bridge in October last year, dolphins helped guard it against any more infiltrators. Yes, fighting dolphins! Forget missiles and drones. The main military weapon the U.S. should send to Ukraine is tuna nets. As far as we know, these dolphins are used mainly as security, especially against mines and divers. But it wouldn't be too far-fetched to see Russia weaponize them just like the Soviets. So what do you think about the U.S. and Russia militarizing dolphins? Leave your comments below. And if you like this show, remember that we rely mainly on direct support from viewers like you. All it takes is as little as $1 per episode over on our crowdfunding website, Patreon. Visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered for more. Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.